are the catalysts of change. Without us, there is no.
When I was asked to be the surprise speaker at the TEDx Find Your Voice, I felt a sense of euphoria, because if anyone who knows me will attest, there's nothing I love more than the sound of my own voice. Now, finding your voice, as all of you know, is incredibly important. It's incredibly important, particularly in the creative business, because it's about being original. And originality is about innovation. And without innovation, there is no progress. Cards, because I don't trust these sliding things at all. What I know within all of us is that our voice begins as a whisper. And a lot of people choose to suppress that voice. And even worse, society and the institutions within society teach us to suppress that voice. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I was born in the UK, but I was raised in apartheid South Africa. I was raised by a single mom who taught me liberal values across all spectrums of life. Open heart, open mind. Now you can imagine that amongst my friends, all young white men in apartheid South Africa, this was not a popular way of existing. They had all been raised by second, third generation South Africans, and their minds had been closed. Other people would call it brainwashed. And it's in this time that I discovered my first lesson, that I wanted to stand for something, not just against something. So picture this. It's a Saturday evening. A lot of my friends are in national service. They've come back for the weekend pass. We're all standing around the pool table, drinking a few beers, and the racist epithets are flying around. Die swart gevaar, which is the black danger. This is all the things we were taught. Lots of homophobic slurs, everything from the pool ball to the pool cue. And I stood there and I thought to myself, am I just going to carry on smiling about this and letting it all just go past me and ignoring it? Or am I actually going to listen to my voice and stand up and tell them what I really feel about what's going on and about what they're saying? And if I do that, will I lose their friendship? Will I be ostracized from the group of friends? And we all know how important friends are. So, like I said, I love the sound of my own voice. So I spoke up. Not in an aggressive or antagonistic way, because I appreciated the fact that I was raised by a war baby mom in London who had grown up as a young lady in the swinging 60s in the UK. And they hadn't had the opportunity of that light being shone into their life in South Africa, which had closed itself off to the world. And a strange thing happened. The opposite, actually. It drew us closer. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because they respected me more, because I stood for something and I was unafraid to do it. Perhaps actually they just needed to hear an alternative point of view. But it forged an unbreakable bond between me and those young men, who today remain my closest friends, even though, as you can see, we're now old men. The beauty, I'm pleased to say, is that in the years, of course, South Africa has opened up to the world, and the world has opened up to South Africa. And with that, so my friends' minds have opened up as well. And it was an important part of my journey in life, because I realized that in some way, in some place, we all suffer from some kind of oppression and suppression. We're all told that we have to dress a certain way in communities or speak a certain way. So whatever you do, guys, don't say circle back in meetings anymore. Okay, these things are forced upon us, and corporations and governments are as guilty of it today as anything else. We're made to feel that we have to fit in. So lesson number 2 about my voice actually happened before lesson number 1, but I only realized later on in life that it was a lesson. I was 14 years old, failing school. I'd just been kept back a year. I was a very good sportsman, but I wasn't playing sport anymore. I was drinking. I was smoking weed. I was being caned every week for not doing my homework. Caning is corporal punishment. You get a good thrashing. My mom was working late hours, trying to forge her way in life as a TV producer, and she realized that an intervention was needed. So I was sent to boarding school, JP High School for boys. And there I met an amazing man called Warren Bowden. Warren saw something in me. He saw a spirit in me, something that no one else had seen. And I remember in particular, he said to me in my first meeting, after telling me how to go and cut my hair, I had hair then, he said, "You're going to start playing sport again." I said, "Nah, you haven't got soccer." And he said, "You're going to play hockey. It's the same sort of thing, same sort of movement. You're going to play hockey, and you're going to be brilliant." And he was right, maybe about the brilliant, but I played first team for 3 years. I got full colours, provincial colours. I think the truth was, Warren heard my voice even before I did myself. And that was the lesson, that finding your own voice has a lot to do with people being willing to listen for it. So life moves on. I had the good fortune of working for some great mentors, but one day I decided to start my own agency because I was tired of listening to other people, because I thought I could do better than all of them. That sounds arrogant, and I assure you it was arrogant. But I had to back up my words with actions. I had to do it. I had to prove myself. So I created a business, and fortunately it became a very successful business, which was, bizarrely, helping brands find their voices. So from 1996 to 2015, I built this business. I had the good fortune of making many, many mistakes along the way and surviving them. Almost all the mistakes I made was when I didn't listen to that whisper inside me. I betrayed my values, my principles. 99.9% of the time, it was because of money. I tried to make a short-term buck, and anybody will tell you a short-term buck doesn't last for very long. But fortunately, as I said, I was lucky. The business grew. Let me fast forward again to 2017. I've now sold all my businesses. Decided to go and work for a New York ad agency. Don't ask me why. I think I was testing the philosophy, shrink to grow. And in April that year, my son had a terrible car accident. And now I knew at the time it was going to be a significant event, but I didn't realize how significant an event it would be for me. So I left my job, because that's all it was. And I reflected upon the courage of my son as he endured 17 operations, skin grafts, partial amputations of his fingers, having his broken legs repaired. I reflected on the courage of the first responders. And I reflected on the care of the nurses and the doctors that treated him through those pretty tough few months. A moment. I thought to myself, but there was one other person I reflected significantly on. That was a man that pulled my son out the burning car. Minutes, seconds, should I say, before it exploded. His name is Rich. I've met him once. And what amazed me about Rich was he wasn't interested in anything, nothing. He didn't want anything from us. No accolades, nothing. Even thanks he was uncomfortable with. Gracious but uncomfortable. All he wanted to know was, how was my son? Was my son okay? And I reflected how grateful I needed to be for everything that I had. And I was determined from then on to give everything I had for the rest of my life doing the thing that I loved. So I moved client-side. And now, what I found was, what I discovered, there was my voice actually had greater range than I thought. I no longer wanted to be the front man, the leader. Instead, I wanted to be, as someone put it, the whisperer, the person behind people, helping them, and guiding companies, helping them find their own voices. So what I do today is I help companies become more creative entities, help them produce better creative products, better work, better, more innovative products. And because I've built a big business and I was part of running a big global company, I understand the importance of culture in a company. And I help them develop their cultures into more creative, innovative places, more progressive places, more accepting places. Corporations are scary places, because what happens with corporations is they end up only listening to their own voice or voices that sound like theirs, and they suppress dissenting voices, different voices. This, of course, means that learning stops. And when learning stops, progress halts and failure beckons. And look at any company that's failed in the past, and you'll see this is what's happened. So I'm fortunate enough to work with leaders with great vision about how they want to evolve their environments into more creative environments. But what I really encourage them is to embrace individuality. And then I work with the people within the company, encouraging them to embrace their individuality, to express their individuality, and to not abdicate their responsibility towards their values and their principles, or as we call it, their voice. So, my day job is an advisor. So what pearls of wisdom can I give all of you as you search to find or to amplify your voice? Well, the first thing is, work for people that reward you for your strengths, not punish you for your weaknesses. Be brutally honest with yourself if you are being true to yourself. Listen to that whisper, because after all, as I found out in my life, there's only one person you actually can't really fool, and it's yourself. Now, honesty with yourself requires immense courage. It requires you to be uncomfortable, slightly embarrassed at times. It requires you to understand and be willing to lose in order to win. But I can tell you, your voice will allow you in your life to look ahead, not over your shoulder. Your voice will make you proud, even when it makes you unpopular. Your voice is a beautiful thing, even if it's horribly out of tune. May you be heard. Thank you.